Opinions shared by the guests of the show are their own and do not necessarily represent the views of the host, bindwaves, or the Brain Injury Network. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of a healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carrie, a stroke survivor and a member of Bind.
And I'm Brittany. I'm a brain injury survivor and member of Bind Fort Worth. And today we have Julie Graham, who is a therapy development specialist at MicroTransponder, working with Vivistim. She has 20 years experience of professional experience delivering in-home services. So, how did you get interested in the brain injury world?
Welcome to Bindwaves, the official podcast of the Brain Injury Network of Dallas. I'm Brian White, Bind's Executive Director. On each episode, we'll be providing insight into the brain injury community. We'll be talking to members and professionals regarding their stories and the important role of Bind's Clubhouse. We work as a team to inspire hope, community, and a sense of purpose to survivors, caregivers, and the public. Thank you for tuning into Bindwaves. Let's get on with the show.
So I have been, as you said in the intro, an occupational therapist for over 20 years. So I guess you could say I got started way back in school. So it's always been a part of everything I've done, no matter whether the setting was acute care, inpatient rehab, outpatient rehab, all of those things. It's always been a part of what I've done, no matter the setting.
Okay, so you started as occupational therapist.
Yes.
And it just kind of moved around from there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, were you explain what Vivistim is and how it works?
Sure. So Vivistim is paired vagus nerve stimulation for chronic stroke survivors. So it is paired, being that we pair the vagus nerve stimulation with PT and OT on the back end to help boost patients' neuroplasticity and regain motor functions in their affected upper extremity.
Okay, and I think the biggest question, let's just kind of back up a little bit, that I had
Sure.
Is when I watched the little tutorial on your website. What in the heck is the vagus nerve or vagus?
What is the vagus nerve,
Yeah.
right? So we'll
And what
we
does
won't.
it do and why do we care?
A lot of different things. So the vagus nerve is a cranial nerve. It's your 10th cranial nerve. The vagus nerve is responsible for a lot of sensory components in the body, as well as a lot of autonomic functions. It's really unique in that it sends signals from the body to the brain and the brain back to the body. Why we care about it in relation to Vivistim is anytime that we stimulate the vagus nerve, it releases these fancy things called neuromodulators, specifically serotonin, norepinephrine, acetylcholine. What that does is when those neuromodulators are released in the brain is it puts the brain in a very awake learning state. It's ready to go. The reason that's important is that opens up receptors and allows those connections between the brain and the signal going down to the rest of your body to be reestablished. So we're able to boost the brain's neuroplasticity and rewire things, go around areas of the brain that were damaged by a stroke, and help people regain those motor functions that they've been wanting to.
Okay, yeah, we all know neuroplasticity
Of course.
all too well.
Yes.
Yeah, and so on your website, while watching the video, it says to get the Vivistim inside, it's a surgery. So how invasive is the surgery?
So it is a surgery with general anesthesia. It's a 45 to 90 minute outpatient day procedure. So I guess in terms of how invasive it is really going to depend on every single person and their medical history. That's something that our surgeons work with each individual patient to determine, safety, things like that. So it's, I would say, not incredibly invasive because it is just a short outpatient day procedure. very commonly done. The surgery itself the procedure has been around for 25 to 30 years. So the surgical procedure used for Vivistim is not new.
Okay, so it just like goes somewhere in your chest and then somehow gets to your brain?
So the way that that's a good question. The way that it works is the what we call the generator, which is small, is implanted just inside the chest wall. It's usually implanted on the left side underneath a collarbone. For some patients who may have another implantable device like a loop recorder or a pacemaker, surgeons can place it on the right side. Then what happens is that there is a lead with coils on the end, and that lead with the coils are attached to the left vagus nerve. So the little generator that goes in underneath your collarbone is actually what sends the that sends the impulse, and then that is transmitted through the coils to your vagus nerve. Then that's what
and so
helps to
you're pointing,
release.
so the vagus nerve is somewhere in your neck?
It is, yeah. So the portion that we're attaching the coils to is in your neck. It's just near the vocal cords,
Okay,
just underneath that tissue there. That's where we attach that coil.
interesting. It's always so weird to me that where you're actually the thing you're getting, you don't go right into it. Like when I get Botox for my arm and my leg, he's poking somewhere and I'm like, that's not anywhere near my fingers, and you're telling me that's gonna work on my fingers. But so yeah, that's why I'm asking
Anatomy
all
and
those
science is fun.
questions. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's quite kind of okay, and I know we might get into this a little bit more, but so in my brain, again, I only know what I know until I learn. So, I had an e-stim in the beginning with my day neuro and my therapy, and so in my brain, I think it's kind of like an e-stim. Is it similar to that? I mean, and then
So in terms of you're using stimulation, it's a different kind of stimulation. What makes Vivistim so powerful is that we are rewiring the brain. So with e-stim, you're targeting the muscle groups, and so you're targeting muscles, which are not your brain,
instead
right?
of the nerve.
Correct. And so with the vagus nerve and releasing the neuromodulators in the brain and that neuroplasticity, once that pathway is rewired, stays with you. Whereas oftentimes with e-stim, yes, it's effective and it allows you to make progress in therapy and some of your movements. However, it's hard to keep it lasting.
Sure. Okay. So with that being said, again, I told you we'll give you questions, but we're gonna have lots more once we get started. So, once you have the Vivistim implanted, is that forever now?
So the idea being, yes, and that's one of the things that I love about Vivistim is it's a very, it's a portable modality, if you will, for lack of a better term.
Okay.
It is a super modality. So it is with you all of the time. So in terms of being able to use it, you're not lugging around a piece of equipment.
Sure.
You're not in the clinic, in the therapy clinic in order to use it. You have it with you all the time, which is fantastic. So in terms of being able to use it forever, the battery life of the implant is 5 to 7 years. So patients are able to use it for the life of the battery. When that battery starts to dwindle, if they choose to, they can have a new generator put in, fresh battery. The battery can quit working, and you can leave it in. It's no harm to your body. Or you can choose to have it taken out at that time if you've really met all of your goals. Lots of different options and ways to go.
Oh, right. Wow.
Yeah.
So we just talked about e-stim and electrical pulses. So what's the different voltages, the levels that go throughout the therapy?
So the amplitude, the intensity of the stimulation is going to be a little bit different for every patient. This is a customizable technology, if you will, very similar to what you guys are familiar with e-stim, right? That's customizable. So we will adjust it based on patient's comfort level. The stimulation is not painful at all. Oftentimes when patients initially feel it, it feels like a little bit of a tickle near their throat. a little bit of a, butterflies, if you will, for lack of a better description. So generally speaking, patients land in about at 0.8 in terms of the amplitude, but we're able to adjust it based on their comfort level.
Okay. I mean, we kind of get it because every brain injury is different. So we know nothing is set in stone for a brain injury patient. So it makes perfect sense that it's adjustable per patient. So that makes so kind of explain to us when you first get it. Obviously, that's going to be in traditional therapy setting. How does it work? How does that work versus when I'm done with therapy and now I'm on my own with it? Can you kind of explain that concept?
Absolutely. So initially, after patients, we have a protocol after patients have the surgery that's 3 times a week for 6 weeks. Their therapy sessions are 90 minutes. So they are committed to that. The therapists are committed to that. What is kind of unique is that the protocol is not necessarily specific exercises and activities. The protocol is based on high repetitions of activities. What's great is that those activities and exercises are individualized. So patients' therapists are going to take their goals that they've already established, and they're going to break down those goals into different movement patterns and activities, and then be able to incorporate the high repetitions in those tasks. So patients go all the way through, get done with the 6 weeks. At that point in time, it's a conversation to have patient, family, therapist, what makes the most sense. Patients are able to continue in therapy if their schedule allows, the clinic schedule allows, insurance benefits allow, all those types of things. They can absolutely continue in therapy and continue to use the Vivistim in the clinic with the therapist. This is probably my favorite part about Vivistim is that patients have the ability to activate the vagus nerve stimulation on their own. So the implant is pre-programmed. Patients cannot program the implant, so there's no potential for mishaps. But it's programmed in the clinic, and then patients can activate their implant at home, doing their own things, their home exercise program given by their therapist up to 8 times a day. Okay. The activation is set for a time period of 30 minutes. That's really important because it forces people to rest instead of going full throttle all of the time. It's a forced rest break. So patients can get started on their home exercise program, daily activities, just getting dressed, showering, doing things around the house, working, and that turns on for 30 minutes, and they get a stimulation that's equal to the same amplitude as what they get in the clinic every 10 seconds or so. And so they're able to continue to build on that benefit of the vagus nerve stimulation all of the time. Okay. Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So what are the side effects of the stimulation?
So there are no noted side effects of the stimulation itself. Sometimes right after surgery, because the vagus nerve is close to the throat, patients may have a little bit of a hoarse voice right after surgery, but that resolves on its own in a few weeks. But sometimes patients are tired from the therapy sessions. Yeah.
We're always tired from the therapy.
Yeah. Then your therapists are good. If you don't leave exhausted.
Well, and I'm going to back up a little bit. So, I mean, I know I asked specifically what's the difference between therapy and home. But, like we were talking earlier, y'all are traveled, but you do have a clinic. So it's not... The therapy is not home therapy, it's in a clinic setting.
Correct. So the way that it works, and I need to back up as well, is when you're in that protocol, the 3 times a week for 6 weeks, our therapists in the outpatient clinics have a laptop with the Vivistim software. That laptop also has a wireless transmitter. The wireless transmitter communicates with the patient's implant. So when the patient is working with the therapist, they are giving extremely targeted stimulation of that vagus nerve during different points of those movement patterns and activities. There's the big difference between the in-clinic and the at-home, because the at-home, it's set to give you a stimulation every 10 seconds or so, whereas in the clinic, you're getting actually more stimulations because the therapist is able to judge where that stimulation belongs in those movement patterns.
Okay. That makes sense. That's what, when you were talking, we were like, you said, you all kind of work from home. I was like, well,
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of programs now that go to your home.
There
So
certainly are.
Do y'all, is this your own clinic, or do y'all work with
No.
other therapists?
That's the beauty of it. That is the beauty of it.
Frisco Rehab or Rehab Without
Correct.
Walls, or whoever the
We
patient
have-
decides they want Vivistim, whatever program they're in. Is
Absolutely. The great thing is that this is a technology that is available to any outpatient therapy clinic that wants to learn about Vivistim and wants to be able to administer it to their patients. When we talk about the laptop, that is simply a loaner agreement between the clinic and our company. So it doesn't cost the therapy sites anything to be able to be a part of this technology, which is absolutely fantastic for clinics. So we work with a lot of different clinics in the area, and we are always willing to educate, build that awareness as far as that this technology is out there. We've had a lot of patients who have come to us and said, I really like my therapist. This is where I go to therapy, all of those things. And so oftentimes we'll reach out and educate those therapists, and everybody meets together and is on the same page. And we're able to really spread the awareness and offer this as close to patients as we possibly can.
That's cool. Yeah, I don't know if it's because it's not the same computer, so I don't know. But somehow Vivistim has been showing up in my Facebook feed a lot lately. But I don't
know. I don't know how that works.
Well,
but
I'm sure that the computer here at Bind does not talk to my computer at home, and I don't get on Facebook here, so I don't know. Someone's listening somewhere. I'm just kidding. I'm going to take a quick little break and just remind our listeners to go ahead and click that like button, that share button, and that subscribe button, and the notify button if you're on YouTube. Just remember, click all the good buttons. Keep on listening. So, okay. Now, one thing that we are curious about that I want to go back and ask. So, I am a stroke survivor. Brittany
I'm a brain injury survivor.
Just a traumatic brain injury survivor. She was in a car wreck. Is Vivistim only for stroke survivors?
Currently, yes. Short answer is currently yes. So our FDA approval is for chronic ischemic stroke survivors.
So not even hemorrhagic stroke?
Currently, no. So, exactly. So, however, yet. So, as Liz, my counterpart, likes to say, we have a long way to go in a really good way. Research takes time to compile data, and studies take time to complete. And so there are a lot of things in the works with our research department as far as based off of what we've seen with our patients who have gotten this implant and the off-label benefits that they have seen. There are a lot of studies coming down the pipeline. So we're really excited about it. So currently, in terms of FDA approval, it's for chronic ischemic stroke survivors. Who knows what we'll learn over the next few years as far as it being applicable to other things. Definitely a lot more to come.
Good.
So I guess it's for those type of categories of people. So how do you know if it will work, or how do you know if it's working?
In terms of for our stroke survivor patients?
Yeah, or how do you decide this stroke survivor it's a viable option for them, or maybe it's not a viable option.
Right.
Yeah, how do you determine that?
So currently with our FDA labeling, we're looking at ischemic stroke survivors. And we're looking at those patients who have done all the initial therapy, because we like for the body to recover as much as possible on its own. And hopefully people don't need us as they recover, because their body has done such a great job. Therapy and physicians have done such a great job. But for those patients who have started to plateau with the traditional, therapy and physician routes, that's where we come in. So anytime we have patients who are interested in us, who either reach out directly to us, their physicians, their therapists have referred them, we always provide education. We have not only myself, but we also have a team of nurse navigators who provide background education. That is huge. We want everybody to understand what Vivistim is, how it works, what the protocol is on the back end, because this is a commitment, like you were talking about earlier, lifelong potentially. And so that understanding is a huge component to really success for the patients and clinicians. So education is the first component, and then patients go for a therapy evaluation, either with a PT and OT. And the reason for that is we get that baseline motor function score. We use a motor function assessment called the Fugel-Meyer assessment. It's been around a really long time, and it was used in our study that led to our FDA approval. So it's a great baseline measure for us to be able to track data long term for everybody across the country. After that happens, everything looks good. Everybody's on board, on the same page. Patients go for a surgical consultation because it is a surgery like we talked about. And so our patients go meet with the surgeon, discuss medical history, the ins and outs of the procedure, medications, things like that. Make sure that everything looks good on that end. And then they go for the surgery and continue on with the protocol. So we get to know all of our patients really, really well because it is all about communication. Absolutely.
Sure, that makes sense. And so one of the things that Brittany and I kind of talked about as we were doing it is, I'm going to guess, it doesn't directly help your mental state of mind, but I've got to guess that this gives some sort of huge boost mentally for those patients that see it working.
Absolutely. To see patients and how they like you just said, mentally, everything overall, when they start to see that progress, after years of kind of being up and down with therapy, and yes, I make progress, and then kind of declines a little bit, to be able, when they see that, it changes everything. It spills over into a lot of other things in a really great way. Absolutely.
Can you share any success stories that you have, or?
Sure, absolutely. So we've seen a lot of super cool things over the past few years, specifically here locally in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We had one gentleman last summer who was absolutely fantastic and as a retired air conditioning repairman, loved to still do stuff around the house. And fix things and do things, which made his wife a little nervous. But those were really big goals with him and his therapist. And he worked really, really hard and was able to finally, for the first time since his stroke, I think it had been almost 7 years, able to repair his air conditioner using both hands.
Oh, nice.
Yes, wow. which was huge. We have had patients who it's been something as simple as I was able to hug my wife with both arms, which is absolutely amazing. Big thing, patients going out to eat, able to cut. We had some patients last year who wanted to go out for a steak dinner because they were able to cut their own steak. So there was no more eating a bowl of soup or a salad or something. They were able to use both hands to cut their own steak.
Yeah, that's called my dad. I totally get that. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
When I go for steak, it's like my birthday. I'm going for steak. I'm like, okay, here you go, Dad. Cut the steak.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of those things that as they like to say, you take for granted.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's awesome about the stories. Thank you for joining us, Julie. And
appreciate it.
Thank you for all those who are listening.
And again, if you would like to contact us, you can email us at bindwaves@thebind.org or find us on our website it's thebind.org/bindwaves. And again, you can always follow us on Instagram at bindwaves. So yeah.
Yeah. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on your favorite platform, and also hit notify on your YouTube while listening to Bindwaves.
And remember, you can find us on all your favorite platforms. So until next time.
We hope you've enjoyed listening to Bind Waves and continue to support Bind and our nonprofit mission.
We support brain injury survivors as they reconnect into the life, the community, and their workplace.
And we couldn't do that without great listeners like you. We appreciate each and every one of you. Continue watching. Until next time.
Until next time.